Hey, it's Mike Brennan. We continue on with our show today, focused on the new auto tariffs that just started on April 3rd. And everyone's scratching their head still because it's so early. We don't really know exactly what Trump has in mind, if anybody does for that matter. But we do have Patrick Anderson with us. Patrick has written, gosh, I see it all the time on LinkedIn, lots of reports on the auto industry. He's working real closely with a lot of folks in Michigan, including our previous guest, Glenn Stevens. And so let's talk about that. What's the really the big picture overall of, I know it's really early, 5 days into this, but what are you seeing?
The big picture is just as Glenn Stevens said, as Anderson Economic Group has been saying for months now, the big picture is very cloudy. In fact, it's downright stormy. If you want to borrow the weather metaphor, I mean, we got a hailstorm going on in the industry, right? It's not just a pitter patter of rain. This is bad. And the reason it's bad is because the policy that we have now adopted in the United States directly imposes costs on our main export commodity from the state of Michigan, which is automobiles. And there's no two ways around it. If you make cars more expensive, fewer people are going to buy them. And our tariff policy directly makes cars more expensive, including what we consider to be American cars. So it is definitely a very serious problem for our automobile industry and for states like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Texas, South Carolina, Missouri that rely on the auto industry.
So I know it's early yet, but what kind of effect are you anticipating on, GDP, employment, that kind of thing?
I probably because I've been dealing with this every day for 3 months now. I don't think it's early. I think it's we're already seeing what's going to happen. Let me point out what we've said and what we can already see. Number one, we said this was going to be a significant increase in costs. We estimated these back in February, $2,000, $4,000, $6,000, $8,000 a car. The estimates we have right now that were released after March 26th, with the current version that was of the tariffs, which was released on March 26th on the White House website, are again 2,500 to 4,000 for the lowest tariff cars, $12,000 for some of the full-size expensive cars, and for some imported lower volume cars, $20,000. There's no way that I believe consumers are just going to swallow that. I don't think they will. Some people say, fine, I want that car. I already got 3 cars. I'll pay for that fancy car over there and I'll pay an extra $20,000. But that is an unusual person. Most people are going to be cutting back on buying cars, and that directly hurts us. Number two, you already saw car sales go up in March. Why would car sales go up in March? Because people are rushing out to buy cars before the tariffs hit. And those extra sales we made in March, those are sales we're not making in June, July, and August. We're already starting to dig our hole there. Next, we said you're going to see used car prices go up. Guess what? We already see a little tick of used car prices going up. Fourth, I think, we said you're going to see reduced number of jobs. You already see some layoff notices. So I'd like to tell you that we were wrong, but we're not. Everything we said would happen if you have the government force the prices higher is happening.
Yeah, so what does that mean for the macro economy overall? Is GDP going to crash? Is our prices, well, prices obviously, but I mean, the employment reports are going to be bleaker. How would you sort of sum all that up, I guess?
I mean, if you're in Michigan, yeah, GDP is going to fall pretty harshly. If you're in Ontario, even worse. If you're in Northern Ohio, yes. If you're in parts of Illinois that already aren't doing very well, but you'd like to have more jobs at your plant building Ford Explorers, yes. Will the U.S. GDP go down? I think this undeniably reduces U.S. GDP, and now I'm talking about not just the auto tariffs, but all the so-called reciprocal tariffs to the extent they go into effect. So yeah, you're going to see that. You're also going to see prices go up. Some of that is gonna go into what we would consider technically inflation, and some of it's going to be just prices going up, taking away some of household budgets. So it is definitely negative for the U.S. economy. It's not it's not mixed. It's negative.
Well, the Trump crowd is asking us to look at this in the long term. That long term, this is going to mean more manufacturing in the United States. That takes a while. How long do you think that might take if it happens at all, or do you think it'll happen at all?
I totally understand what you're calling the Trump crowd, the MAGA crowd, the folks that have complained about unfair trade, folks that have complained about unchecked immigration, about open borders, about a fascination with globalism. I share a lot of these complaints. I probably made them on your show. Some of the let's do what they say in Davos. You never heard me say that, right? Right, of course not. I think a lot of what they've been announcing in Davos has been bad for the United States. But as Glenn Stevens said here, it's not like you're going to pick up a whole plan and move it across the border. What's going to happen is you're going to lay off people over there, and you're going to lay off people here, and then you hope to get some fraction of those people working here and there. And we've got some great examples here since we're talking to an auto knowledgeable crowd. I mean, we have Chevrolet Silverados. They're assembled in the United States. We also assemble in Canada. We also assemble them in Mexico. I have no confidential information from GM, so I'm not saying what they told me secretly they were going to do. But you have to expect that with the tariffs, they'll focus on building products for the Canadian market in Canada. The Mexican plant will build the products for Mexico. The American assembly plants will probably build the product for the United States. That's going to cost us something because you can't fill all the demand easily. You're going to cut off some production. All in all, we're going to have fewer jobs and probably higher costs. That's the best case scenario, the Chevrolet Silverado. For some products, you're just going to say, okay, we're just going to stop making it because we can't afford to make it for the number of people who'll still buy it. And that's where you get your big job losses.
Yeah.
I think it's going to really hit a lot of these small imported vehicles that the big three or Detroit three don't typically make anymore. They just work with their Asian partners or wherever they might be. So, I mean, and those are the least expensive vehicles. Those are the ones maybe you can get for 20,000, but probably not.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's going to make it even worse. I mean, because then you're going to be stuck with, well, we don't have anything in that price range, but we do have these $50,000 vehicles, and the average
Yeah.
person's going to say, I can't afford that, right? So it just keeps going worse and worse.
Mike, you and Matt understand this. Like, you're talking about it, and I can see it because anybody who's been in Michigan, we've been through the roller coaster ride in the auto industry.
Right.
And we know when the U.S. economy starts to go down, we go down faster.
Yeah.
And we know that like go-go days, all of a sudden people come back buying cars like crazy. We've seen that too. But you got to look at those cars out there at $48,000 for a typical transaction price. That's just a lot of money. And you already see people priced out. And a lot of the cars that, as you pointed out, Mike, that are on the affordable end. So $25,000.
Yeah, 20 is probably
$25,000 is still
unrealistic, but 25, yeah.
$25,000.
Right, yeah.
But if you got a job and you're willing to borrow some money, maybe it's your first job, maybe it's your second, maybe it's your third job, and you and your spouse are working, but this is your first time to buy a new car, and you just made that $25,000 car $29,000. That's a big bump there for somebody that's got to calculate every month how much they're going to pay. And people are going to say, I can't afford that. And if you go back and say, well, we used to have a car that was 50,000, but by the way, it's 55 now. Well, that's a non-starter. Right? So that's why Michigan is so vulnerable, because people for our signature export product, people in other states can just say, no, I'm not buying it at all. I mean, our agriculture is also vulnerable, but people won't go from they won't go to not eating. They'll continue to eat. And appliances, home appliances, also something we're good at. They're going to do it. Pharmaceuticals, they'll cut back on some things, but they'll keep doing it. But our signature product is something that people buy when they're confident about their future, and that makes us vulnerable to policy mistakes.
Well, then the other issue, of course, is the inflation rate is no doubt going to be going up. And it was just starting to level off and become somewhat acceptable to people. Now it's going to
Yeah.
go up again. So that's another factor. Not only is the car going to be more expensive, but your financing is going to be more expensive.
You're right, Mike. And let me say for all those economists out there listening, because I know they all tune in like they should to this show, that I'm going to differentiate between inflation over a long time period and a one-time jump up in prices. Here's what this does: one-time jump up in prices. Inflation rate as we calculate it's going to go up, and you're going to see interest rates and uncertainty and other things go up. It's going to be harder to finance your car. Now, I'm going to say I expect the automakers to make big effort to try to insulate their customers. You already see Ford, for example, offering employee pricing for everybody, which is, I admit, as a feel-good marketing exercise, but it's them stepping up, trying to comfort their customers. Some other OEMs have said, okay, we're going to insulate you for 1 month or 1.5 months from any price increases. You're going to buy our car, but you get out there 2 months, and it's a rocky, rocky situation for automakers and auto dealers.
Matt?
Yeah, someone else was pointing out earlier that the average age of cars on the road has already never been older, right?
Yeah, average age. If you actually look at the raw data, it's 10 years or more. And I'll tell you, when we do the modeling at Anderson Economic Group, I take a cutoff and say, okay, that 12-year-old car, they're not driving that every day.
Yeah.
All right. I actually have a 12-year-old car, and it does get driven, but
I have a
it's
13-year-old car and it gets driven. So
actually I'm thinking about a 2012, and let me tell you, Mike, it is great looking. It's all nice. It's got a V8 engine, dual exhaust. It's nice, but it doesn't get driven every day. Actually, my son's driving. It looks cool. But yeah, so you even look at the cars we have now, and to our credit, we make great vehicles here. Great vehicles. And we warrant them. Almost every car is warranted for 4 years through all kinds of weather. Everything. We're going to warrant it. So we should be, I think, proud of the product that we sell here. We make and sell good products. And if you don't have a good car out there to sell, the customers got lots of choices. They're going to choose another one. But that also means that our customers can keep those cars on the road for a long time. And if you see our US government or our state government or both make big policy mistakes, they can say we don't want to buy a car for a while.
Yeah. I asked this of an earlier guest that we had on today. What do you think the effect of all this might be on EV sales, which are still rising, but not nearly at the pace that was anticipated a couple years ago? And some of those tend to be more domestic, right?
Well, Matt and Mike, I think we've been on the show before saying those EV sales that people forecast to go to 50% of the market. I'm going out of the screen on purpose here, by the way. They were going to skyrocket. One of the few places you got the straight talk was from here. We said, no, they're not going to 50% of the market. They're going to grow, and they have, just like you said. They're going to go from 2 to 4%, 4 to 6, and then grudgingly get to 8, which is the most we've ever had, 8% of the market. I'm one of them. Actually, I don't have one out there now because I drove a diesel car today, but I bought one of those. Here's one of the things that's going to happen is, first of all, you already saw that electric vehicles were not doing what the government and some of the activists, and unfortunately some of the OEMs said. There's a great article out there for those want to read it, called Cars, Costs, and Cognitive Dissonance, where I just break down here's how wrong and why so many people were wrong about this. And that's not to say, if you like your EV, I've got an EV, go buy one. But you can't assume that 50% or even 25% of people are going to buy them. And they just got more expensive. So And the manufacturers now have got a 2-alarm fire here with tariffs, and they're going to be much less interested in subsidizing EVs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the main reason I didn't buy one is because I go up north a lot to visit family because I got a lot of family up there. There's no place to charge them up there.
You know, man, I'll tell you, this is just last weekend. I got an EV there. I got a nice EV. It's all charged up. And then I said, I don't know. I think I'm going to take this old diesel car with 120,000 miles on it. I got up north. I went up north of Gaylord, and we had an ice storm. You know, we all know about that. And let me tell you, if you haven't seen the pictures, it was
Oh God.
absolutely as bad as they said.
Oh yeah.
If I'd have had this EV, it would have been a disaster. Because to drive back, I had to drive all the way from north of Gaylord, all the way through Grayling, Gaylord, down all the way to, south of Grayling before I found a gas station that was open. That was 90 minutes of driving before I even found something. You can't do that in an EV that's you already driven. So fortunately, I took an old-fashioned ICE car. Otherwise, I'd be doing this on a telephone that only started working 24 hours ago, Matt.
That's
Oh,
supposed to be you had an ice car for an ice storm, so.
yeah, there you go.
All right. Any final thoughts, Patrick? It's only 5 days into this madness, but what do you think's what is the end game here? Is it really negotiations? I'm trying to understand,
Mike, part of this problem here is that you and Matt have watched this for a long time. And if you don't see the end game, that's a problem. And it's a concern that I have, and you saw from Glenn Stevens, and you see from every single business leader that I talk to, which is we're going to take a lot of pain here, and we are hoping that we're going to make some deals or negotiate something. Well, in the short term, these people are going to lose jobs.
Yeah.
Customers are going to stop buying our product. People's 401ks are getting smashed. Folks that were saving up for a house or a home, they can't buy what they want. It's affecting people's lives. And we need a strategy to succeed here. And I'm not seeing this right now as being a good one.
We'll leave it at that. Matt, take us out.
All right. Well, on that happy note, Patrick Anderson of the Anderson Economic Group. Thanks for being with us today. Always good analysis.
All right, take care, Matt and Mike.